everybody, it's Paige, and today's video is going to be a palette ranking video. I am really excited to film this. I'm going to be ranking every single one of my Lunar Beauty palettes. I have actually already filmed this video, so this is sort of like a part 2 / update. I filmed this originally about 2.5 years ago. I will have the original video linked down below in the description box in case you guys want to go watch it. But yeah, I had a request recently to film this video, and I was like, you know what, I feel like now's a good time. I have more palettes than I did in 2020, so that's what we're going to do today. And I also wanted to let you guys know, I shared this on Instagram, but I don't think I've mentioned it here, but I actually have a discount code with Lunar Beauty now, so you guys can use code PAIGE to save 10% off of Lunar Beauty products. So I will have my code and the link to all of these palettes, if they're still available, linked in the description box. All of the info will be down there. So anyway, sorry for the long intro. I lost my train of thought. If you guys are new to my channel, don't forget to subscribe and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoy, and let's go ahead and get started. So I have every single palette that Lunar Beauty has ever come out with. I am an OG fan. I have all 8 eyeshadow palettes, and then I also have all 4 base palettes. So I'm going to do 2 separate rankings. We'll do the eyeshadow palettes first because I think that's what most people are looking for, and then we'll do the face palettes. So I'm gonna go ahead and organize these. These are in no particular order yet, but we're gonna go ahead and organize these into my favorites from least favorite to favorite, and we'll get to some swatching and ranking. Alright guys, so we are going to start off my eyeshadow palette ranking with my least favorite palette. Now I will say that I do not dislike any Lunar Beauty palettes. I love all of them, but this is my ranking if I had to make an order from least favorite to favorite, and I'll give you guys kind of my thoughts as we go along. So my least favorite palette in 8th place is a beautiful palette, and that would be the Greek Goddess palette. This was actually in my last place in my original video as well. I hadn't ever used the palette in that video, and that's why I decided to rank it last. I have now used this palette and I love the formula. It's a really pretty palette. It's a little bit basic, which I am not saying is a bad thing. I am a neutral fanatic. I love neutrals. I love nudie pinks and peaches and all of that. I love it all, and that's kind of what this palette gives me, but there are just other palettes that I like so much more from Lunar Beauty, which is why I decided to put this in last place. So this is a fantastic palette. I'll go ahead and swatch some of the shades for you guys because the shimmers are just stunning. Here are some of the shimmers swatched. As you can see, they are super pigmented, super buttery, absolutely stunning. And I actually believe that this palette is discontinued, so I don't think that this is any longer available, which is so sad because the packaging is just absolutely phenomenal. And I think this is a great neutral palette. It has a couple pops of color, which is fun, but again, this one is in last place as far as my favorites for Lunar Beauty palettes. Next up, we have another really pretty palette, and this one actually kind of reminds me of the Greek Goddess palette, but just a little bit better, and that would be the Eternal Eclipse palette. I think I just said Eternal Eclipse palette. The Eternal Eclipse palette. This is a stunning palette. This is one of his newer releases. Again, this is kind of like a cool toned neutral palette. We have a couple pops of blue, which I think is what makes me think of the Greek Goddess palette because it has that little pop of blue in there. But they're both pretty neutral palettes, or like, you know, wearable palettes with some fun little pops here and there. I prefer the Eternal Eclipse palette a little bit. That silver in there is absolutely stunning. It's called I don't even know how you say that, adamantium, and this, you can already tell that this silver is absolutely insane. It looks like a silver Sharpie on my hand, but it's a powder eyeshadow. Make it make sense. I don't know how he does it, but the Eternal Eclipse palette is absolutely stunning, and if you love these colors, I think you would love this palette. It's a little bit grungier. Like I said, there's lots of cool tones in here, but you still have a few warm toned mattes in here, which I think works really well somehow. So Again, this one is in 7th place. I love the packaging. I love his palettes that have the moon in the center like this. I just think it's so aesthetically pleasing and unique and fun. Manny gets a 10 out of 10 for all of his packaging on all of his products. He definitely goes above and beyond when it comes to packaging, which I can appreciate. Next up, we have the Moonspell palette. This was a revolutionary palette, in my opinion. I love this palette. I think it's so unique. It's so intricate. I love the packaging. I love that it looks like a spell book, and it's called the Moonspell palette. Again, the design is just so intricate and fun, and the inside is beautiful. I love that we have a purpley row, a more neutral row, and then a bluish green row. I just love the layout of this palette. I also love the variety of mattes and shimmers, and I love the fact that there's a shade called Paige. Even though it was not named after me, I can pretend that it was. And it's this matte purple shade right here. It's kind of like a fuchsia color. It's so pretty. This is such a fun palette, and it definitely gives me like Halloween type vibes, but it also just gives me fall vibes in general. It's more of a colorful palette. It's not your typical, like, you know, Morphe 35O palette when you think of fall. Some think of that, some think of this, and I see both as fall palettes. Here are some swatches from the palette. So pigmented and creamy and pigmented. I already said I said oh my god, pigmented. Beautiful shadows, and I wanted to mention that I now understand Bonnie. I'm actually watching Vampire Diaries and the originals right now. I'm on season 6 of Vampire Diaries and season 2 of the originals, and I understand Bonnie. I didn't know when I bought this palette originally. I had not seen the show. I did not know who Bonnie was, but I get it now, and it makes me so happy because I love Bonnie. She's literally one of my favorite characters in Vampire Diaries, like ever. I love her so much, and I love that there's a shade named after her. So thank you, Manny, for naming a shade in honor of Bonnie. Yeah, I can't wait to finish the show. Actually, I don't want to finish the show, but I'm loving it. So my camera battery's gonna die. I'll be right back. Next, we have Moonspell Volume 2. I was really excited when this palette came out, and I actually never got to film a review of this palette. I'm pretty sure I have reviews / videos of every single one of these palettes on my channel, except for this one, and that's because I ran out of time. It was a very hectic part of the year for me, and I went on Instagram stories and had a swatch party with this palette because I still wanted to share it with you guys. So yeah, this is Moonspell Volume 2. It's a little bit bigger than the original Moonspell palette. There's an extra row of shadows, so you can see it is a little bit bigger than the first. But this palette is so pretty. I love the colors in here. I love purples and pinks. If I'm gonna wear a colorful eye look, it's probably gonna be purple or pink. That's just my preference. And this is basically a purple and pink eyeshadow palette. There are so many fun colors in here. The shimmers get me every single time. I'll swatch some of these. They are just, they're so beautiful. This one is called Luna. Like, are you kidding me? Are you joking? This is, wow, I want to wear this every single day. So yeah, there's just so many fun shades. This is Misty. You can just see the reflection and the dimension and the color, the pigment. I love it so much. So 10 out of 10. Love Moonspell Volume 2. Next, we have the OG. This is the first eyeshadow palette that I ever purchased from Lunar Beauty, and that would be Life's a Drag. This palette makes me so happy. It gives me so many good memories. I feel like your first product from a certain brand it holds a lot of meaning to it for some reason, at least most of the time. In my case, I don't know, I can't speak for everybody, but when I think of like, oh, my first Urban Decay eyeshadow palette, like the Naked palette, that means so much to me. My first Lunar Beauty palette, Life's a Drag, it's extra special, you know? So here we have Life's a Drag. This is such a fun palette. I love the way that this is laid out. I love that we have neutral mattes, colorful mattes, and then 2 shimmers. This palette is also discontinued, unfortunately, but that's okay because we have a revamped version, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. But this is just such a fun palette, and maybe I like it more than I should because it was my first LUNAR Beauty palette, but I don't know. It gives me good vibes, and that's all I can really ask for. Look at those shimmers. They speak for themselves. They're incredible, and that's why I love Life's a Drag. It's so fun, and I am sad that it's gone, but like I said, we have an upgrade, so you know, I will keep this forever because I love it so much. But if you guys missed out on the palette, fear not, because we have the Life's a Drag Facelift palette. So okay guys, we are in our top 3 now, and I loved all of the palettes, but the top 3 are they're extra special. So in 3rd place, we have the Strawberry Dream palette. I love this. I love the packaging. This is, I was gonna say this is my favorite packaging on one of his palettes, and it might be. Definitely top 2, but I think this might be my favorite packaging ever on one of his palettes, face or eye. It's just so beautiful. And here's what the palette looks like. It's very colorful. I used to be really into colors, and I still, like I said, I still am, but I think a lot of you guys have noticed that I'm definitely more in the neutral vibe right now. But this is still an amazing palette. There's so many pretty colors here. These 2 mattes really make this palette special for me. I also love this white/blue metallic flaky, just textured shade. It's incredible. I love it so much. And then we have Cloudy and Skyline. These 2 colors right here define me. Pink and peach, those are my 2 favorite colors. I love this palette, and it's so fun. And again, this one means a lot to me. I don't know if it's because it's pink or what, but I just think it's so fun. So that is 3rd place. In 2nd place, we have the Life's a Drag Facelift palette. This is the replacement for the Life's a Drag palette, and this is basically the same palette but more. So we have more shades in this palette. We have original shades, we have new shades, and there's more color, there's more neutrals. We have an additional shimmer. It's set up the same way. I think this was a really good move. I loved Life's a Drag, and I think it was great, but I also love this. You just have more options here, and I think it's a phenomenal palette. I'll go ahead and swatch the 3 shimmers. We have Full Fantasy, Beat, and Legendary. They're just all, I could wear them every single day. I love them so much. So Life's a Drag Facelift gets spot number 2. I also think the naming is very clever. I like that it's called Facelift because it's like a facelift of the original palette. I don't know. Anyway, that leaves us with the number 1 spot, which I have to say, I do love all of my LUNAR Beauty palettes. As you guys know, I've said that like 17 times. I love them all, but this one's different. If these are all like basically on the same level with each other, my number 1 palette is way up here. It's the best palette LUNAR Beauty has ever come out with. I have been wearing it non-stop. I'm wearing it today. I went more peachy, but I've probably worn this 5 out of the 5 last days of my life. 5 out of the last 5 times I've done my makeup. Ever since I got it, I can't stop. I can't stop with this palette. This is the Nude Prism palette, and when I tell you a palette was made for me, this palette was made for me. Literally, well, not literally, but figuratively. I love this palette. Look at it. Just look at it. Does this not scream Paige Koren? I don't know. It does to me. I could only use this palette for the rest of my life and be happy. Well, this and Nudie number 2. Those are my top 2 eyeshadow palettes ever. I love them so much, and the fact that they're Laura and Mayonnaise palettes just make them that much better. But truly, this palette is incredible. I have a full review of this collection on my channel. Go check it out. It's my first impressions review. I have done 5 makeup looks with this palette, and I just love it so much. The shimmers are stand out. All of his shimmers are stand out, but these ones are, they just hit different. This row of mattes right here is everything for me. This row I probably won't use as often, but these two, 10 out of 10. I love it so much. It's incredible. You guys need this palette. No joke, you need this palette. So if you guys are interested, use code PAIGE for 10% off. I truly mean that this, I could see this being my top palette of 2022, because even though we're less than halfway done, I just, I love it that much. So those are all of my eyeshadow palettes. Now I will do a quick ranking of my face palettes. We only have 4 of those, and I love all of them. So this was just kind of like, all right, Paige, pick an order, and I just had to pick an order. In number 4, we have the Greek Goddess Highlight Palette. I'm ranking this last because I have never used this palette. I love his highlighter formula. I'm assuming this is the same formula. I could be wrong. I don't know. But this is a beautiful palette. I love the shades in here. I actually bought this as it was being discontinued because I wanted a complete collection. So I did purchase this for the sake of having it in my collection, and I probably will use it someday, but I don't like to use products in videos if you guys can't get them. I feel like it's kind of unfair. So that's why I don't think I've used this yet, but I'm so happy to have it because it completes my collection. In 3rd place, we have the Outer Dimension palette. This is such a cool palette. Look at the packaging. It's, yeah, words cannot describe how cool it is. So here's the Outer Dimension palette. It's basically a contour palette. You have some bronzery contour shades. You have, I guess it's a sculpting palette. You have some different undertones of highlighting shades. They're not shimmery, they're matte, so they're not highlighters. They're just like brightening powders. You have, you know, peach, yellow, pink, and more of a neutral. It's a great palette. I again have a video trying this out for the first time, and it's super diverse. You can use the white to mix in with the other shades. So for me, this is too dark of a peachy palette if I want to use a peachy powder on my under eyes, say. So I can mix this with the white to make it suit my skin tone. So yeah, it's great. I love it. Fantastic. In 2nd place, we have the Nude Prism blush palette. This is the one that just came out with the Nude Prism eyeshadow palette. It's a beautiful blush palette. I'm wearing the shade Peachy today. I've worn this for the last 3 days in a row. I love the color Peachy, but this is probably the only shade that I see myself using on a regular basis. I'm not saying I won't use the other shades, but this one suits my skin tone really well, so that's why I prefer this shade here. But I think it's a great blush palette. I just love this one more, the Moon Prism blush palette. These shades are just more my speed. Lots of warm toned peachy colors, some with more pink, some with more peach, some shimmer, some matte, and this is just a phenomenal blush palette. I think these are the only 2 that I have not used, but these 4 I'm all about. So that's why I decided to rank this one in 1st place. But that's my entire ranking video. And if you leave today with any bit of knowledge, just know that you need this eyeshadow palette. It's so good. And yeah, I guess that's kind of it for today's video. If you guys have any other ranking video requests that you have for me, let me know. Again, I will have my original video linked down below if you guys want to go watch that. I haven't watched it. I just like scrolled through to see what my ranking was just because I was curious, and it definitely has changed a little bit, which I think is interesting. It's weird how, like, you know, that was my personal opinion a couple years ago, but as I change, my tastes change and my preferences change. But yeah, that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, please don't forget to subscribe and give this video a thumbs up. Like I said, everything will be linked down below. Don't forget to use code PAIGE for 10% off. I still can't believe I have a discount code with Lunar Beauty. Like, that's insane. So yeah, that's it. I love you all so much. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.